Hello and welcome back to the Impossible Entrepreneur podcast. I'm architect Anna and I'm an entrepreneur on a mission to do the impossible. So, we are on to season 2, episode 5, which is the AI advantage. And there's plenty of things that you can say on AI. There's tons of podcasts talking about AI, lots of business efficiency and things like that. And oh, you can start a business and make $1 million in a day type things. But I'm going to start by just telling you a simple story. I think it's good when you're learning about something, especially something that I guess is so contentious as AI and has so many different viewpoints, just to talk about it from a personal perspective, from a one-to-one. So, the way that I got started with AI, and if you've listened to this podcast up until this point, you would already know this story, but I'm going to say it again because it is part of the AI advantage. So, I'm a qualified architect. I changed careers several times. I went from architecture to acting and stunt training in the film industry to working in marketing as a chief marketing officer, which is a weird jump within a short period of time. But then after 6 months working at that job, I was fired 30 minutes before my 6 month probation ended. And I had a flat that I was living in. I wasn't allowed to sublet it. My contract didn't have a break clause, and I was supposed to be in it for another 9 months. And I was like, "Oh goodness, I really, really need a job, but also I'm gonna just try and get out on my own and start my own business." So I was like, "Oh, I'll be so clever," because I was doing marketing and I'm also architect. So I started a business called Markitect. Get it? But unfortunately, I'd been working with a team of 10, and going out on my own, even though I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna start like a creative marketing agency. It'll be really interesting." All of these tasks I knew I then had to do myself. I couldn't afford a team. I didn't really have savings that much to go off of. I'd started draining a lot of my savings since quitting architecture. And I was reasonable, by the way. And I tell people don't quit, don't like take the leap without a parachute. I had $18,000 saved when I quit architecture. I was like, it's gonna be fine. But slowly, slowly, that all drained. And definitely when I lost this job 30 minutes before my 6 month probation ended, I was kind of like, oh no, what do I do? So instead of being mad at that company and spending my precious energy and time trying to get back at them or do anything about it, like some people suggested I do, I actually just started my business, 2 days after I got fired, I printed off my business cards. I joined a free 10-day business course. I was like, this will be a good way just to at least to try to learn and get in the swing of things. And even in that course, I was like, oh, did you know you could do this with AI? Did you know you could do that? Because I realized right away, after having a team of 10 to just being me, what am I going to do? And because this was the very beginning of 2023 and ChatGPT came out November 30th, 2022, things were really starting to move quickly at that point. There was new things coming out all the time. It was a crazy time. And I mean, like 3 years later, it's still a crazy time to be honest. But back then it huge announcements every single day. So I was testing out all this stuff and I was like, wow, I'm someone who just like loves efficiency. I hate when things are inefficient. So I was immediately drawn to it. And because it uses natural language processing, meaning you can communicate it casually, conversationally, as you would a colleague or friend, I just got it. I got it right away. It was just very intuitive to me. I I was like, "Oh my god, I can ask it any questions. I can ask it to look at things from so many different angles." So, I would have like in the very beginning I asked crazy questions. I had this conversation with Socrates on a regular basis about, starting a business and getting things off the ground and trying new things and testing out stuff. Because any person in history who has a data set on them, like theoretically, you can ask the AI version of them questions. Of course, it's not going to be accurate. There's a lot of things with generative AI, which is that's what we're mostly talking about now is generative AI, not other types. Uh, is that they can make mistakes. They can hallucinate, meaning they confidently and convincingly make things up, but also they can just be glitchy and weird. And every time there's a model update, things change. So it's like you just have to constantly be adaptable. And I think I had already started to learn adaptability from deciding to quit architecture and going to the very bottom of another profession and then jumping to the top of one profession and then getting fired and moving on. But I very much started to really hone that skill as AI was developing so quickly and I just had to constantly learn and test and try things over and over again. I mean, it's such a crazy learning process. I know people comment on how AI can like remove your intelligence from the process, but they must not be using it right because I'm able to learn 10 times faster, execute ideas quickly, like prototype, run through strategies, figure out like flaws in systems, look at it from like so many different perspectives, to actually make what I want for my life and for the world happen. So it's a massive advantage. So yes, early days, I would have conversations with Socrates, like Alexander the Great, even like the AI version of Alan Turing, who is known as the father of AI, just to get his thoughts on things. I asked crazy questions. I realized because they have data sets on animal behavior, I was like, I wonder if you could kind of like talk to different animals. And I know this is super random, but I asked it about, the behavioral traits of a lion. I was like, what would a lion think of present day leadership? That was interesting. And then it, basically described how the leader of a pack, is it called a pack? It's not, I don't think it's called a pack, with lions, they look after the weakest members of their society, and they're like, in present day leadership, sometimes they don't do that. And I was like, oh snap, the lions got it coming. So it was really interesting just to like, I was like, oh wow. So many unique perspectives just by asking questions that popped into my mind. I asked it what the favorite memory was early in a penguin's life. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just asked lots of questions. And it was like, oh, I remember this day when I was cuddling up in my mom, like on her first stomach, that kind of thing. And I was like, is that really your first memory? It's always good to ask like clarifying, critique, follow-up questions to see if it's gonna critique its own results and look at them correctly. And it's like, actually, no, animals don't have memories the same way humans do. And I was like, oh. So that kind of went down like another rabbit hole, just learning something that I didn't even know existed. I was like, oh, wow. I mean, yeah, obviously, but I guess I never thought of it. So you don't know what you don't know. And honestly, what I don't know fills libraries upon libraries, but I constantly am trying to learn and absorb information. And it is easier than ever to do that. So it's really, really cool. And of course, when you start a business, you've just been like released to the world unknown, like no skills, no one's prepped you for this. It was not something that you're necessarily taught about. We're taught, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, get a mortgage, start a family, ta-da, you did life. And then it's like when you try and do something different, there's not necessarily in like guidance. You can pay for guidance to get some shortcuts, like get through the velvet ropes and stuff and get like a little entrance into the side door. Yeah, you can pay for mentorship, you can pay for courses. And honestly, that like there's some bad players out there, but investing in yourself is one of the best investments that you can make, for sure. Like if you invest in the stock market, even if you do it well, you're going to get what, like 10% returns, and then you have to deduct like inflation, so maybe it's 7% returns. And even if you go into like private equity, maybe you'll get more than that. But with personal investment, instead of like 10%, 40%, it could be 1,000%. It could be crazy. Developing your own skill sets is never a bad thing. I've heard arguments like, why should I learn AI if it just means that I'm going to then lose my job to what I've used AI for? Yeah, that might happen. I mean, unfortunately, that could happen, but you've still learned something valuable that you could use elsewhere. I do think that we're going to be moving much towards more of like a gig economy. So there might be people watching this in like 2, 3 years time after another round of mass redundancies. And it's like, yeah, I was fired too. And then I used this thing to my advantage to ask any questions I want, strategize whatever I'm trying to do and build, try to learn more about myself throughout the process as well. And I'm still very early into the story as well, but I've used it a lot to, I guess, interrogate myself, like my blind spots, my gaps, my skills that are missing. If my goals actually even make sense, if they're realistic, I pressure test things. I run a lot of pre-mortems, meaning I like find all the ways that it could possibly fail and then strengthen it. And I can do all of this with AI. It's not like I inherently knew how to do this stuff on my own. I've taught myself quickly by asking questions, and literally anyone can do that. Chatbots are fantastic. I think like they can democratize information to a way that was never possible before, but you have to have critical thinking when you are using them because yes, they can make mistakes, they can make things up, and you need to make sure you always verify and check all outputs. I always got to say that bit. I say that in all my trainings. So yes, after I got fired, I then realized, okay, I can ask these any questions. I can figure out what I need to do to start a business. I can figure out how I had a team of 10 before. How do I actually do that as just a me, just a one person? And I could ask all of those questions. And then I realized for my company, how do I show them that like AI is my unique selling point? Because I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to stand out against all of these other marketing companies out there. I was like, it sounds hard and I don't have a lot for ad spend. So what am I supposed to do for my unique selling point? I was like, it should be AI. I think it's so cool and it's really helpful and it's already helped me. And I was like, I barely even have a business and I've already found it massively helpful in like a dozen different ways. So clearly it can help everyone else. I mean, it can help a lot of other people. So I decided I was like, okay, what can I do to show the world that this is a thing that I do? And so I was like, okay, you could do it publicly, public accountability, but also maybe a challenge. And I was like, yeah, a challenge that also shows that I'm learning and testing and that I'm creating stuff. So I decided to create an entire book about AI with AI in 7 days. And I announced it publicly on a Sunday night and I started it on Monday morning. And I was working like crazy hours. I was working like 12, more than 12 hours a day to try to do this. So yes, I did do it in 7 days, but they were a crazy 7 days and I would not want to do it again. But I learned a lot by doing it. I created a 60,000 word book, with AI about AI in a week. And I also created all of the chapter and section covers. I had to spend like a full day just reading and like proofreading and editing and going back and forth. I had to spend a full day just on images. I spent the first day and a half just on outlining because at this time when I created it in March 2023, GPT kind of sucked. I mean, it was like fantastic for back then, but where we are now is the worst that it will ever be. And I've been saying that for 3 years because it's true. It just like is so rapid and it's constantly improving. It's hard not to feel like you're going to fall behind. And I'm someone who is on it. Like I'm tool agnostic, I'm industry agnostic. I'm constantly using, you know, Claude, Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and I'm working across over a dozen different industries on a regular basis. And I sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, it's happening so quickly. So if that's happening to you too, totally understand. Valid. Valid. So with this book, I mean, at the time, the outlining was really key because ChatGPT could only generate about 500 words at a time, and everything it created was so super ridiculously repetitive. I also used Bard, which was what Google's Gemini used to be called. It's back in the olden days of generative AI, my goodness. And I knew that I had to have like a very, a prompt that was going to get the results that I needed, but with the constraint of only 500 words. And also I had to structure the book to be able to accommodate that limitation, which was interesting. And I did talk about that process in the book in the preface. And so I created 4 sections of the book and then 3 chapters in each section and then 3 subchapters in each chapter and then 3 sub-subchapters in each one. Anyways, so there was quite a lot. There was like basically 108 subsections. And what I did was I just thought of the book as like 108 mini essays, right? Keep it simple. And so what I did was working on this outline was super important to make sure that the book wasn't just like a bunch of repetitive nonsense. Um, I mean, I had to get rid of a lot of the repetitive nonsense that ended up happening anyways. But still, this was a really helpful process. And I would say, even if you like don't want to use AI for any writing, totally fine. You don't have to, but use it to critique your outline. So I did. I was like, is this flowing correctly? Can you be very critical of the structure? Is there anything that's overlapping? Is there anything in the wrong order? And we kind of went back and forth for a day and a half, building and rebuilding the outline and running it back and forth over and over and over again. But that meant that the next couple days went much faster and much smoother. So I'd say you can definitely use it, even if you don't want to use it in like the most creative elements. Fine, totally fine. If you're struggling with a piece, like let's say you're creating like a book that's about characters, not necessarily a book that would be for business. You can always say like, is the character development going correctly? Is there anything that it's missing? Can you look at it from all of these different perspectives? Can you look at it from like a bias perspective? Am I putting information in it in a way that I shouldn't, right? There's lots of different ways to critique the work that you are doing so that you get better results, so that you learn throughout the process without it touching any of the creative elements. The image generation, now that I look back at some of those pictures, they are a bit weird, but that's okay. I mean, like, there's some weird finger situations that still happens from time to time. I don't know why image generators don't know the number of limbs that we have and fingers that we have and teeth and eyes that we have. Oh my gosh. One of the craziest things I ever created was this tiled image of what was supposed to be a blanket outline. I was like, ooh, I can just sell AI generated images on blankets and mugs and stuff on Printify connected to Etsy. Ooh, yay, great. This was one of those early days, you can make money quick with AI type things. So I tested out all these tiled images and I was like, I'll do a field of bunnies. And like, oh my God, it was horrifying. I deleted the image. I feel like I should have kept it because I bring it up from time to time. But I mean, there was bunnies there with like 3 eyes, 4 eyes, ears in weird places. I was like, no child should see this blanket. Anyways, so that was interesting. And then after the book was created in 7 days, I had it peer reviewed. Of course, I like ran the book through AI to get feedback, but because the models at the time just couldn't look at that volume that well, I had it peer reviewed, got suggestions from other people, made a couple updates, like adding in a few more story bits in the start of chapters, that kind of thing. And then I self-published it online for free. Did I know how to self-publish? No. Did I figure it out with a chatbot? Yes. Did I also learn the difference between self-publishing and publishing through someone else and the pros and cons? Yeah. Yeah, apparently, if you publish through a publishing company, they take the lion's share, like the lion's share of the profit, and also in a lot of cases they don't do a lot of marketing for you. So it sounds great, like you got published by this group, but then whereas if you learn about, selling for yourself and funnels, there's lots of really interesting ways that you can actually use your book as a lead magnet, or you can use it just to like get new clients or warm up your audience, that kind of thing. So that's what I did. Self-published it online for free. Could have very easily turned the entire book into an audiobook with my voice by using a tool like 11 Labs, clone my voice, read a bit of the book, and then have it generate the rest of the book and then sell the audiobook as separate. But yeah, I had it as a free lead magnet and it worked really well. I took it down. I took it down because I kind of like A, stopped that funnel, and B, the book is called How to Get Started with AI in 2023. There are still people getting started with AI in 2026, and of course, there are people that are adamantly against AI in 2026. So the book title would need to change and it would need to have like a completely second version. But as for like an archived place in time book, fascinating, right? To look back on. And weirdly enough, if I had known at the time that I set this challenge that this existed, probably wouldn't have done it because I thought I was the first person. I was like, I'm the first person to create an AI generated book with it, like with AI about AI. I mean, anyways. And actually, it just so happened that like either the day before I launched the challenge or like the day of that I launched the challenge, the co-founder or the founder of LinkedIn released an AI generated book. I was like, well, I guess I'm in good company. But anyways, so after that, I used it as a lead magnet and then I just started to share the information with other businesses that wanted to talk to me. And yes, I did that for free for over a year. I just had so many conversations with, I'd say like a couple hundred entrepreneurs and small business owners about what they were struggling with, and I just gave them advice. Like it was kind of like mini strategy sessions trying to figure out their needs and wants and how things might work and kind of like testing ideas even back then. So I've been doing this for ages. I mean, like now I get paid for it, which is awesome. As business owners, I hope you get paid for your services too. But it meant that I could test out these things in a very like stress-free environment. I was just having conversations. I was just seeing what worked, what didn't. And a lot of my advice was helpful, and that's great. But I also learned from it as well. So I got that market research, I got some testimonials from it, and then I built from there. I then went on to like try to launch my own course, like my own AI for beginners course. Did I know how to launch a course? No. I knew the content of the course, but I didn't know the process of actually creating a course. So, like, where do you need to host it? How do you need to advertise it? What do you need to do? And guess what? I got to ask all those questions to a chatbot and then take me to sources and learn from them, from other people, directly to the information. It was great. So then I was able to execute that and do it. On a larger scale, when it comes to proper businesses, not that you're not a proper business if you're a solo entrepreneur, you are. I just mean like ones that are already established and up and running. There's lots of ways to use to evaluate your process mapping, to even just like create your process map if you don't want to have one already. Like AI transcriptions are gold. If you can use a transcription tool on your calls, gold. Like this is being transcribed as well. And the first 300 episodes of my podcast, all audio, I ran all of them through a transcription tool. and have the PDF versions of all the text of every single episode that I've put into an AI tool so that anytime I want, I can go back and ask it questions about every episode. Like, did I say this? How did I phrase this? Do I have any interesting quotes on this topic? Do I have any cool stories about this thing? Also, interrogating myself, can you identify my blind spots and gaps and repetitive thought patterns and cycles that have like got me into wrong areas or ideas that I might have left behind too early? I have all of this data, I guess, on myself that I can ask questions to, which is a massive advantage. So, the AI advantage, you can use it in so many different ways. In the last episode, I talked about how you could use AI to create a customized learning curriculum for yourself, create all the long tail keywords that you can find the YouTube videos to watch them, or, do the research for you to find verified sources that are up to date as well. Don't forget about that. Say you don't want them to before like January 2025, and if it's going to give you sources before that date to justify why they're still valid. Cool. To put them into a notebook in Google Notebook LM and then generate podcast overviews, mind maps, flashcards, quizzes. If you want to learn something, it is easier than ever. And yes, it's also easy to use AI, I'd say, incorrectly in a way that potentially puts you in some kind of danger, whether that's your own data being in danger because you haven't gone into your settings and gone into data controls and switched off improve the model for everyone. Make sure that's switched off. You want your data to be secure. You want to make sure you're not listening to things that might be completely made up. Also, these tools can be a bit sycophantic. They can say how amazing you are and how wonderful you are and that you are fantastic and that you know the answers to everything. And if you don't want it to do that, guess what? All you need to do is ask. It all starts with a question or a command or a prompt or an instruction. And in most of these tools, you can go in to your settings, you can go into personalization, you can go into your custom instructions, and you can say, like, please be critical of everything I say. Please verify information. Please call out any assumptions that you've made, etc., etc. In my case, I also say write in British English, use pounds, not dollars. Even though I have an American accent, I live in London, England, and I try to write in British English. So it knows that I need that piece of information. Again, you can customize these things to get around a lot of those grayer areas. But also, I would say be very careful using these tools for anything like medical, mental health, legal, financial. They're getting better at the legal financial. I think financial definitely like Claude's pretty great at it right now. Like Claude Opus 4.6, like it's been really interesting. I used it to, just calculate some of my like bank statements and stuff, and then it created an entire spreadsheet that was all accurate, and so I sent it to my accountant. I was like, "Here you go, you take it." But hopefully I've done some work for you. Thank you. uh, so yes, finance moving along. Legal, I have used it for help on the legal side, but again, I knew that like it could be getting things wrong, it could be giving bad advice. So the way that I did it for legal was there's certain sites that you can actually like pay to chat with a solicitor for like 5 to 10 pounds for like a day or a couple hours. And so I went and asked them lots of questions, asked them about specific like precedents, legal examples, advice that they had. And then I took all of that chat information and then I put it into a chatbot to help it like customize and draft the information. Of course, in a lot of cases with legal, it's because you actually want the stamp of the legal company on the documents. But if you don't need that, sometimes it can just be helpful to know your options. From a medical perspective, I think there's a lot of ways that it can be helpful. If you have like a doctor's appointment coming up that you're nervous about, you can ask it questions about what you should ask the doctor, right? So you could go into a chatbot, like, I've got this appointment coming up. I would like to know what things I should bring up, what kind of questions I should ask them to make sure that I can get the best care. Or if there's any words that I should use, like in legal, if you want to, sorry, in financial, in like banks, if you want to be taken seriously, the word to use is vulnerable. If you use that word, you'll get escalated to some more support and help. So there's going to be different words in different industries. So with medical, you can use it as help for that. If you are someone who's like maybe English isn't your first language, but you are at a doctor's appointment in an English speaking country, you can have it translate for you. If they don't have a translator, like AI can have lots of different benefits that don't touch any of the necessarily like gray areas. Like I have reconstructive knee surgery coming up, and I have been waiting 6.5 years for this surgery. I love the NHS. I think it's fantastic, but sometimes it's a little bit slow. So that would be one of the benefits of having more money would be that you could go private and you could get surgery whenever you want. I mean, assuming you need it. So I've got that coming up, and I asked it questions like, what should I ask the surgeon? And it was like, you should ask what type of grafts they do. Because if they only do one type of graft, it means that that's probably what they're going to recommend for you, even if it's not the most suitable. And I was like, okay, so what are the different types of grafts? Listed out the different types of grafts, went through, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, just like, so I'm aware, which one might I be most suitable? Not that I get to pick because I'm not the surgeon, but I would just like to know based on like my age, height, activity level, type of injury, all of that. And yeah, so I got some advice, and then I knew what kind of questions to ask. I knew what type of prehab to get started with. And then of course, I verified all of this information with an actual doctor. I didn't just do it. So once I got it verified, I then put it into practice. So they said the best thing that I can do is to just cycle like stationary on a stationary bike. And I was like, okay. And so rather than like paying for months and months of a gym membership, especially after surgery, I bought one from home, which was the price of like 1.5 months at a gym. And now I can actually do all of my learning activities at the same time layered in. So I can listen to podcasts, I can watch tech videos all while I'm cycling. So I'm doing both like a health, physical, mental thing and a learning thing all at the same time. So there's lots of different ways to use it. And again, all of this was kind of like wondering about stuff and then just asking the question. People ask me like, what should I get started with? Like, how should I do this? What should I do that? I mean, just start. Just ask. Don't ask me. Ask it. Like anytime you get stuck. Also, I mean, for troubleshooting, chef's kiss. It's beautiful. Like anytime I get stuck with my phone. Here's my phone. If I don't know how to do something, if I can't find something, I'm trying to do something on my phone. I don't know where it is. I'm like, okay, I've got this type of phone, the setting, where do I find it? And then in the chatbot will tell me. I'll usually do this in Perplexity. Perplexity is kind of like Google on steroids. And of course, you can always check the sources, which I would recommend because sometimes it can make them up. So always look at the links. But yeah, if you're troubleshooting something, if you want to know how to use your CRM system, you're like, I don't know where this is. If you want to figure out A, if automation is a good option for you, and B, how to automate it based on your tech stack, you can discuss that with a chatbot. Like if you think about all these things that might cost you headache, time, energy, potentially money with a consultant that you might not be able to afford in your business, can you start at least by asking a chatbot? And when it comes to a creative perspective, I would say always work with creative teams because they have so much value. They're so unique in the way that they think. And of course, AI is not a replacement for taste. But if you can make sure that you get to the concept that you are most comfortable with before engaging one of those people, you're going to save a lot of time and energy and money on both sides. You're not going to waste their time. You're going to know exactly what you want. What this might look like is you might generate 10 images and then be like, ooh, okay, I really like that style. Then you might generate a few more in that style and get to what you want. So then when you actually have someone create it, they would know exactly what you want. Whereas like you could get someone on Fiverr and then they could get it completely wrong and then everyone's unhappy, right? We want everyone to be happy campers. From another perspective, it could be like you know that you need to do a photo shoot for a product that you're launching, but you're not really sure the concept, what you want it to look like. Cool. Create those images, run it with your product, drop your product in. Actually, it's cool how these image generators can take images that you drop in as like photo ingredients and then create them and then go from there. And then it will be able to create a lot of options for you so that when you actually do get a photographer who will be well worth the money, you know that you won't waste their time. You can also have a shorter session because you know exactly what you want. From a filming perspective, I know like I've actually worked in the film industry and there's tons of areas of inefficiency. I would say AI is going to be great on the admin side when it comes to the film industry. It can be somewhat helpful on the creative side from like a critical perspective if it's critical of the work that you're doing. But also if you think about just how much money is wasted by like reshoots and things getting messed up on set or delays in filming, if a director could create a scene in advance and then show the props, lighting, sound, actor, people, everyone, what they want it to look like, and then just execute it with the actual film day. Um, Again, time, energy, money saved. I think that there's just so many inefficiencies and so much wasted in our world, and it doesn't need to be that way. Other things that AI are helpful for, I mean, it's probably going to be the thing that helps us cure cancer, which I consider a pro. It's already helping diagnose people with breast cancer earlier on by looking at thousands and thousands of mammogram scans to identify breast cancer earlier, which is great. It's reducing food waste in the food supply chain, whereas in the past, food would rot in warehouses before it could be distributed. Now they're looking at where it can be distributed to people who are hungry and in need of food. It's looking at water contamination. So, if there's water contamination, how to shorten the spread of that. Looking at mining from above, using satellite imagery to look at illegal mining, illegal poaching, different ways to help our environment. But yes, there is a negative environmental impact when it comes to AI. I'm not going to ignore that. It's true. But it also depends on where you're located and how they are running their data centers. So there's a lot of different energy perspectives. There is the electrical cost, the water cost, the cost for rare minerals and metals that are actually used to build some of the technology. But also, if you are building a data center in Texas above ground, in an area that is already hot, in an area that already has water shortages, that's pretty short term thinking. But if you're building a data center that is below ground using the thermal massing of the Earth, A, that's going to be a little bit better than above ground. B, how are you going to be running it? So there are places in Scandinavia where they are running their data centers 100% on renewable energy. So there's above ground, below ground, there's how you're running it, non-renewable energy, renewable energy, okay? But a lot of the energy is like the water cooling of the data center. So if you require less cooling, then great. And if you require the least amount of cooling, that would be underwater. So Microsoft kind of dropped their tests in 2018, but they were testing underwater data centers. And you're like, technology underwater, what? No, but it's great. And so this is actually something that China has moved forward with. So that's actually the way that requires least cooling. So again, it depends where you're located, how they're running them, above ground, below ground, underwater, renewable, not renewable. Either way, they're still going to require, rare earth minerals and metals. I know that Elon Musk has said that he wants to have data centers in space in 36 months, and those will require even less energy. They will be much cooler. Who knows what will happen? It's all a work in progress. With AI, because you've got so many creative minds out there using these tools to test things faster, to research, to analyze data, I think we're going to make breakthroughs and innovations that were not possible before. And I think in doing so, we will make a lot of these systems more efficient. But right now, yes, still contentious. But also, there's a lot of people out there who just will not use these tools, even though they can have both a personal advantage and a professional advantage. And that is fine. It's up to everyone. These are just options, right? Like if you have an option to send an email or write a letter, you pick. If you have an option to walk across town or drive your car, again, you pick whichever is going to be the most efficient. It's still going to be up to you at the end of the day. It's totally fine. There were definitely people who refused to use the internet when it came out. And right now, there's people who refuse to use AI. We'll see how things go. But just like the Industrial Revolution, we are in a period of change. And some people will say this is unprecedented change, and some people will say, like, no, this is just change as it has happened throughout history. Who knows? We will see what happens. But I think if you can find a way to use it for your personal advantage, for your professional advantage, why not? And if you're someone who is thinking about starting a business, but maybe switching careers as well, you can use it to help you research jobs that you want. You can use it to help you construct your CV that matches the keywords in their job descriptions, to draft cover letters, to help you do interview prep, to create customized questions that you can simulate conversations with to answer and run before those interviews to make sure that you deliver a great job. There are so many different ways to use it that will help you in your life. And yeah, once I started to use it and help other businesses, I've learned about dozens and dozens and dozens of use cases in all different types of industries, from like pharmaceuticals, medical, energy. I even did a adhesives company once, marketing, like all different types. And there's things evolving every day. Like if you're someone who works in marketing and you're like, oh my gosh, my job is going to go away. There used to be traditional marketing, and then there's digital marketing. That's now like a title. And then we'll probably move into like AI marketing. It is just something that is shifting. But the way that you make sure that you are going to stay competitive is by being adaptable and just being curious and testing these things out. And there's going to be people out there that like just disagree with everything I've said. That's totally fine. This is my lived experience and I'm just sharing it. And it's there for you as an option. So there's lots of different ways to use AI. I could talk for literally hours and hours and days about all the different ways. So I'm not going to. This is already, over a 30-minute podcast. So I'm going to leave it roughly around there. In the next episode, we're just going to talk about starting before you feel ready. And yes, a couple ways how AI can help you start as well. So Good luck. If you need to get started and you're like, I don't know where, choose a chatbot, any chatbot. And if you're on the free version or even on the paid personal plan, just make sure you go into your settings, go into your data controls, and switch off improved model for everyone, just so your chats can stay private and not be used for training data and potentially pop out in someone else's conversation. Terms and conditions done. Okay, good luck out there. Stay safe. Don't forget to have critical thinking. And then if you got kids, I've also done a lot of training in the educational sector in schools. Just try to help them as much as possible and tell them to develop critical thinking skills alongside and not just use it to do their homework for them and offload all of their intelligence. Okay, good luck out there. Have a great day. Bye.